Hogstye.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Hogsty. It is I, Alex. We have Steve. No Dave today. He said he's at a baseball game, I think, right?
Why is he prioritizing something over the Hogstye?
Baseball over the Hogsty. I mean, you love baseball.
I do love baseball. No, of course, I prioritize Journey and Def Leppard over the Hogstye, but that was because I didn't want to waste a free ticket. Of course, that's
Right.
what he was doing, I think, too.
Yeah, I get it.
But it sounds like he's prioritizing the Phillies.
Well,
I was prioritizing two great bands. He was
Yes.
prioritizing the Phillies.
yes, who I will always have a loathing for as a not just as a Washingtonian, and I'm angry Bryce Harper went there and Trey Turner went from your Dodgers to the Phillies after he was here, but
One of the dumber things the Dodgers did.
one of the dumber things the Nationals did too.
They traded for him, though. It's like the Dodgers were fond of trading for people for half a season and a lot for half a season and then letting them go.
Yeah.
They did that several times. I don't like the Phillies just because it's Philadelphia, and Philadelphia's the city of hate.
Right. Well, I have that part too. But when my wife worked for the Nationals, every time the Phillies were in town, and she worked the two worst years in
They have a bunch of cretins show up from Philadelphia.
Yes, it was always horror stories.
Yeah.
Always horror stories. So that's why. Their reputation is actually undersold as how bad they are.
Are they worse than the Eagles fans, or is it about the same?
I mean, they're the same fans.
That's what I mean, but is there like some subgroup of baseball only fans that are worse? Or I would think it's about this. I've never been to a Phillies game.
I went to a couple when I was in college there. But when I was in college there, they were a terrible team, so like the stadium was empty. And I don't know. I was getting so drunk I don't remember because I was in college.
These are the people that threw batteries at Santa Claus. Just remember that.
They threw batteries at Santa. They have a jail cell in the parks.
And that's not being facetious. That's a literal jail cell. I mean, it's the people they lock up for drunk and disorderly and assault and battery and stuff, and they get locked up.
Yep. It's Philly. It is what they are.
Hopefully Dave won't get injured at this. Hopefully he's got a crew around him. He can keep, from the bad from getting to him.
Dave and his wife tag team is what I understand. They put on their luchador masks and, just go nuts.
Dave, we hope you're okay, man. If you come back next week and you've got a black eye and a broken nose, we'll know it didn't go well.
I don't know if we'll notice. So we should obviously week 1 is in the books now for the Washington football team, who we will not name, and we are on to week 2. So they'll be playing the Giants. We're gonna do our recap. We're gonna talk about the preview for the Giants game. But first we have to get to the most important thing. The team did announce that they will be wearing their gold pants in this game, which is obviously the most important thing. Second most important thing.
I'm just thrilled about that. At least, as long as it's not a black jersey, I'm okay with whatever.
It's burgundy and gold at least. The old colors.
That we can at least pretend that they are honoring the past, even though they aren't.
Right. So my wife was at it was the DC State Fair, which was about as terrible as that sounds. But the team had.
Can I just point out that DC isn't a state, but continue.
Right. It wasn't really a fair either. There were no rides, or it's mostly just like political groups and or like local like
hot dog vendors.
Yeah, exactly, that kind of thing. But the team
so
apparently
it's
had
a state nor a fair, but it's there.
The team had a booth where they were giving away things, and she got me a little stupid keychain there with the
she tried
tutty.
With that. Ugh.
But I'm going to point something out, and again, only I care.
Pepsi.
Steve, it's a Pepsi logo on the back because they're not going to print it themselves. But it's the new Pepsi logo, and if you remember, the hat has the old Pepsi logo. Pick a logo. What are you doing, Pepsi?
I think that it's yes. Don't get me started. It's like these agreements, these marketing principles, either specify the logo or it'll say specify logo and it'll say the company has a right to change it, and they probably just fed them a new logo, and
it's just silly.
Yeah,
is all it is. and it's silly that I notice it.
I think it's silly that you have the Major Tuddy keychain. I mean, kudos to your wife for getting that's a nice thing she did for you.
Yeah, it's a nice thing she did.
But it's like that's the stupidest mascot in sports.
There are a lot of. First off, football has terrible mascots generally. Like, can you name a really good football mascot? I can't.
If you wanted to call, who was the old Redskin guy that died?
Chief Z. Chief Z was awesome.
I don't know if I'd call him a mascot, but if he's a mascot, he was awesome.
Yeah. Super fans. We have great super fans throughout.
If you're like truly like the mascot.
Yeah. Most of them are you wouldn't recognize them if you saw them on the street.
No. I mean, don't the Chicago Bulls have a bull?
Oh, sure. But I was saying football specifically.
Oh, football specifically?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's not a lot of them. I mean,
there's not good ones. It's just.
You think like
a baseball thing?
The Bears could come up with like a giant bear if they wanted, but they don't. I don't think they have one.
I have no idea. They probably do, and we just don't know.
Nobody knows.
Right.
I mean, the Eagles could have a big bird.
They have one. They have one.
It's stupid looking though. It's not a good mascot.
Football mascots are all awful.
How about a giant dolphin that by its very biology would suffocate and die outside of the water?
Well, so
anybody ever wonder about that? Why do the Miami Dolphins have a mascot that has to swim?
If you remember, the Miami Dolphins mascot was the main character of the movie Ace Ventura: Pet Detective.
I do remember that.
Where Snowflake the dolphin was kidnapped by Ray Finkel, and Ace Ventura had to save the day.
You are such a nerd that you remember any of that.
Hey man, I was 12 or 13 years old when that came out. That is right in my wheelhouse.
I have seen that, I think. And I vaguely remember that. But it's like that's a dumb mascot too, honestly. You're going to name a team after a mammal that must swim in the ocean when you are a football team.
And sharks are just their neighbors. Like you could have gone with the most awesome animal in the ocean.
Well, I mean, I'm okay with dolphin. I like dolphins, but it's not a violent animal, number one, and it can't play on a football field.
No,
at least
really
a bull can play on a football team.
Well, but Snowflake kicked field goals, Steve. Snowflake kicked field goals.
What I'd say probably if you get to really stupid team names, like the Commanders is up there, but
it's the worst. Yeah.
Putting aside Commanders, I think the Lakers is really dumb. Really dumb
for the fact that they should have changed it when they moved.
Well, but even though when you're in Minnesota, like what's a Laker? What does that mean exactly?
It's the land of 1,000 lakes.
I get it, but what is a Laker? Is it a guy who lives by a lake?
It's not an actual thing,
right? That's what I'm saying. But especially when they moved to California, then it makes less than no sense.
Yes, a place with definitely no lakes. Yeah.
So I think that off the top of my head, that might be my nomination for the dumbest professional American sports.
I will give you one that will upset people. Yankees. Terrible mascot name or team name.
I mean, at least they're trying to be positive for the, Yeehaw America. I mean, which is what it's about.
Not really. It was initially a slur about Americans.
Yeah, but it's known as. I get it, but at least Yankees harkens back to colonial times, and yes, Yankees was a slur. Them damn Yankees. I get it, but
that was more the Southern thing from the Civil War.
It's better, but it's better than Dolphins.
Oh yeah, sure, it's better than Dolphins. Knickerbockers also terrible.
That's like, what is a knickerbocker? Somebody tell me.
Right. Even me, a history nerd, barely understands it.
Like knickers, I think of like pants.
Right. I'm pretty sure it comes from pants.
Yeah. Like, so what is a, are you?
It's a guy who wears short pants. Is
the New York pants.
The New York.
That might be dumber. Pants. That might be worse than Lakers. Now that I think about it, like at least Lakers is grounded in geography.
Right. And Dodgers too. I know they're your team. But it was about people jumping on subway
cars. The subways in Brooklyn. Yes. Yes. There's no subway in Los Angeles. It's also dumb. Yeah, it's a dumb nickname.
Well, trolleys technically, I guess back then. But
but there's no trolleys either.
No. All there is slow moving traffic in LA.
Why are all the Southern California team names dumb?
Because they took them from the East Coast or somewhere else. None of almost all the teams are from somewhere else. That's
What's that other stupid team, the Donald Sterling team in the basketball team, the Clippers?
The Clippers. That I guess was an original West Coast.
But it's right? A boat. It's either a boat or a haircut instrument to cut hair.
It was meant to be sailboats.
But I mean, why is that like? What is that telling you? I mean, the Clippers.
I don't know.
That's not like advocate. It's not It's not conjuring images of athleticism, violence, strength, speed. It's a boat, and it's a rich guy yacht that Buffy and Muffy float around on in the Pacific.
Yeah, Buffy and Muffy, for the record, are both female names.
Well, either that or it's Barber's Clippers, and neither one of those is a good name.
That would almost be funnier. It should
be the LA Clippers. Yeah,
they should just have like scissors on their logo.
Yeah, exactly. It'd be better.
Yeah, let's get creative, guys. Come on.
What were we supposed to be talking about here?
We're gonna recap the game. That's what we're supposed to be talking about. All right,
so let's do stats.
I think what we just did was more fun than what.
I don't even remember what we were even talking about. What was even the topic?
Stupid mascots. That's what.
But it was more than that. Wasn't the subject you're introducing? That's where we ended up with. What was the subject?
I showed you the stupid keychain mascot.
Oh, the keychain. Yeah, that's right. Okay, well, let's get to the game.
Washington. Give me some numbers, Steve.
Washington got skunked by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, 37-20. Stats: Jane Daniels is 17 for 24, 184 yards, no touchdowns, no interception, 2 sacks, quarterback rating 93.1. Leading rusher was also Jane Daniels, 16 for 88 yards, 5.2 yards per attempt, longest 17. Brian Robinson was 12-40, 3.3 yards per attempt. Austin Ekeler was 2 for 10, 5 yards per attempt. Receiving, leading receiver was Austin Ekeler, 4 for 52. Brian Robinson was next, 3 for 49. Zach Ertz, 3 for 28. Luke McCaffrey, 3 for 18. Terry McLaurin, 2 for 17. Olamide Zaccheaus, 1 for 15. James Crowder, 1 for 5. John Bates was 0 for 0, but had a target. Mm-hmm. And on defense, Bobby Wagner was the leading tackler with 10, including 5 solo. Quan Martin actually was at 9, but 8 solo. Mike Sandersill, 6 with 5 solo. Benjamin St. Juste, 5. It goes down from there. And I'm not going to do the kicker game today.
No.
But
the punter game?
The punter game, sorry. But he was 3 for 139. So it was not close. And then Cade York was 0 for 2. We got to get that in.
Yes, we have to get that in. And
employed Cade York is 0 for 2.
And I guess just to also wrap up a little, Tampa put on quite a show yardage-wise, 112 rushing yards, 289 passing yards.
Yeah. Baker Mayfield was 12. We got to get this out, actually. Yeah. Baker Mayfield, sorry, it's the first one of the season, people forgive me.
A little rusty.
24 for 30, 289 yards, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions, quarterback rating of 146.4. That's not good. Leading rusher was Bucky Irvin, 9 for 62. Chris Godwin with 8 receptions for 83 yards. Rachaad White, 6 for 75. Mike Evans, 5 for 61. They kind of put him on ice there after, it seemed like.
They did.
Yeah, and nothing else of interest really with the Buccaneers. So that is stats.
That is stats in a thumbnail. Not a pretty showing. We all predicted a loss. But let me give you my quick reaction. I want yours, and then we'll dive in.
All right.
My quick reaction is I'm not shocked by the loss, and I'm honestly not that shocked by the offensive performance that much. But man, did I think the defense was going to be at least somewhat organized. That's where I'm the most annoyed. It's just I didn't think they had fixed the defense, but I thought that we would be further along towards a competent looking defense than this.
My instant reaction, the offense looked like amateur hour. The defense did not surprise me really at all. I mean, the only group that really improved was the linebacker group.
Mm-hmm.
The defensive secondary really didn't, know, so none of that surprised me. Tampa Bay's got,
good receivers.
High quality receivers, but offensively, my very first, like I put in the takeaways, Jane Daniels is okay, not good, not bad. It was a rookie first. It was acceptable, maybe, to say it like that for a first game of a rookie. He didn't make huge mistakes. Caleb Williams made look terrible, for example, with the Bears. But they really need to take the training wheels off the offense. That was really my big takeaway on this. You cannot. If you're not going to play the kid in the preseason, you can't just bring him along on training wheels in the regular season because you're going to lose games. So either play him in the preseason or just throw him out there and let him go, one of the two. But I was not impressed with the offensive game plan. That was my real takeaway, was that.
And I kind of agree with you that I wasn't impressed with the offensive game plan, and I want to separate that, but I want to separate that out a little. Okay. To me, this whole season is really going to be the offense as a whole, and then how are we developing Jayden Daniels as a quarterback, right? Like those are two things happening at the same time, but they're almost separate tracks of thought that we should be having. When we talk about the offense as a whole, I have no idea what they want to be right now, and I don't think they know what they want to be.
Yeah, they don't know.
But my thing is, I know it's first year head coach, a lot of new players. You should have had some inkling of what you want to be, at least in this first part. Do you want to be let's just run the ball so that we're not putting too much pressure on the kid? Okay, if that's what you want to be, and 20 points is fine, right? Like you live with that.
The problem is they don't have running backs who can do that.
I know they don't, but I'm saying if that's what they wanted to do,
then try it.
Then do it.
Because I'd like to point
what
out,
they were wanting to do.
I mean, they did run. They called 14 running plays to the running backs.
Right.
12 to Brian Robinson, 2 to Austin Ekeler. Number one, I don't ever want to see Jayden Daniels with 16 carries again. That's way too many. Right. I mean, somehow Lamar Jackson does this and never gets hurt. I don't know how he pulls that off.
Well, he gets banged up pretty often.
Yeah, but he's never missed like half a season with torn ACL or anything like that.
Yeah.
Like RG3 went down and immediately.
It was never the same.
Yeah, right. And I don't want to see that happen to him.
Sure.
So look, how about Jayden Daniels? So here's my thoughts. The obvious thing was he moves as advertised.
Yes.
He's very athletic. He can run. He doesn't know how to slide. I told you guys he doesn't know how to slide. No. He didn't in college. He still doesn't now. He goes to the RG3 school of, sliding. But passing, I was a bit disappointed, to be perfectly honest. There were several plays he didn't read properly. He missed open receivers. He misread some stuff. That first pass of the game, it was awful. The flat pass was awful. Terrible. So I really wasn't impressed with his passing ability. I hope he was just nervous, unprepared, young. I don't know what, but he has got to get better than that. Otherwise, that's not going to lead to a good place. That's my Jayden Daniels in a nutshell.
Okay, so my Jayden Daniels in a nutshell. I agree. His passing still needs it needs work in specific areas. He is not a short yardage side. Like when you watch a lot of his college stuff, he wasn't a dink and dunk guy, but that's because he had deep ball receivers or deep threats that he could throw to. So I think that he needs to figure out who his 2-3 reliable targets are still and just feed them the ball. This whole philosophy of, hey, get the ball to, 18 different guys every game. It's not going to work,
But also I like to point out that Austin Ekeler and Brian Robinson, 8 targets, 8 passing targets.
Right. So he's hitting his checkdowns.
He's hitting a lot of checkdowns. Ekeler was the leading receiver, as I said. Right. And you got your Mr. Pro Bowler, Terry McLaurin, 4 targets,
didn't get
a
pass
receptions.
Until the third quarter.
Yeah.
Didn't get one thrown his way.
And they don't really have a quality number 2 receiver, but if you want to call Old Mead Zacchaeus at 3 targets, Luke McCaffrey 3 targets.
Right. And one of those was a trick play that he didn't, it was supposed to be a throwback, remember?
Yeah, that's very true. And so it was really 7 targets to the wide receivers, 8 targets to the running backs, and then Zach Ertz had 4 targets. Yeah. And then John Bates had 1, so 5 to the tight end. So it's a bunch of checkdowns and a bunch of short, short passes to the tight ends.
We need to start getting some Ben Sinnott in here.
They do. But they need to open up the offense. He's got to, and part of it was he wasn't reading the field properly a lot of times.
Sure. A lot of those runs, the scrambles, which I want to talk about that as well. They were all right. 1 read, go, and look,
that's what he did in college.
Yeah, and a lot of rookie quarterbacks do that. Like this is not something we haven't seen. Mike Vick was this way in his rookie year. Donovan McNabb was the same way in his rookie year.
RG3 did the same thing.
RG3 did in traditional, but remember they were using so many of that like read option RPO stuff with him that where it was read your outside linebacker and throw to whoever he's not covering. Like that was 90%.
That's what RPO. That's what the.
Yeah, that's what he did.
Yeah.
Now when it comes to the running, Dan Quinn had a presser today, and he was talking about the running. And he said they want Jayden Daniels to stay in the pocket more and not scramble as much, and try and get the ball out. And they're going to keep the design runs. I actually think that's the wrong answer. The designed runs are what will get him hurt because one, you're running him into a wall most of the time. Like if you look at, he had 16 attempts. One was a kneel down. One was technically that backwards pass was counted as a run, just so you know. Like, so take those out. It's basically 7 design runs and 7 scrambles. He gets like 3-4 yards at best on a designed run. The big yardage comes on the scrambling. That's where he's effective. What you need to do is take out hey, Jayden, you run it here and hand that ball off, turn that into another traditional passing play. Those are your wasted plays right now, is the Jayden Daniels designed runs.
Well, yeah, and like Cam Newton had a lot of design runs, and he got really beat up.
Right, and Cam Newton was built like a tank.
Right, and so Jayden Daniels is built like an NBA shooting guard.
Right. He's a speed guy.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's not going to go well eventually. Again, I don't know how Lamar Jackson has somehow managed to avoid serious injury.
Right.
But he's like a unicorn. But most of these guys are going to get hurt.
Right.
We don't want that to happen to him. But more importantly, I just think maybe I'm old fashioned here, but I think fundamentally Jayden Daniels has got to be good in the pocket. To be a solid career franchise quarterback, he's got to be good in the pocket. He can do this. He did it at LSU. So.
He was good in the pocket at LSU.
He was, and we're not trying to make too big a deal of this. It's one game. It's his first game. By the way, it needs to be said that Tampa Bay had one of the best passing defenses in the league last year. This was the A game. A team he's facing here, so it's not going to be like this every week. But I think he needs to have some drastic improvements. But I also think Cliff Kingsbury needs to call plays in which the receivers are the principal targets downfield. He needs to get used to not so many checkdowns, and the offense needs to open up. Otherwise, the defenses are going to collapse on him, and it's not going to go well.
I think for that to happen, though, they need to develop a second receiver who they trust.
Yes.
And I think they were trying this week. I mean, it was clear they were trying to target OZ and McCaffrey.
Olamide Zaccheaus.
I've heard him called Oz. OZ is fine. I'm gonna go with OZ.
Okay.
I think they're trying.
But he's not going to scare anybody, though.
Neither of those will scare anybody. But you need somebody to be enough of a weapon that you can then go to McLaurin a little more.
And frankly, to be honest, I mean, we all love McLaurin. I love McLaurin.
Right.
I don't think he scares people at the same extent as some of the other, as Justin Jefferson.
No, he's not that.
He's a good receiver. He was worthy of Pro Bowl consideration. He's probably the best draft pick Washington's had in 15 years
on offense, at least.
Yeah. Because he was a 3rd round pick. I mean, he was from an efficiency standpoint, but he's not at the level. I hate to break it to everybody, but I'm just truthful here. He's not at the level where you're talking about top 5, top 10 elite receivers that scare people. That is not him at that level.
No, I do think they need to use him better. I haven't gone back and watched the All-22 quite yet, but to me, it seems like they're just doing the same mistake that we saw them do last year. He's running a lot of deep stuff. He's not doing enough crossing routes. His best asset is his ability to get open on, curls and on crossing routes and slants.
To do that.
And why aren't we using it? That is his best skill. I know, he's got elite speed. Doesn't make him a deep ball threat.
He's fast, but he's not Darrell Green out there either. In terms of speed.
He's probably probably the fastest guy on the team, though. I mean, that's not.
I mean, at least in the receiver group, yeah. I mean, I don't know if there's somebody else faster somewhere, corner or whatever, but I mean,
not
yes.
Corners.
Yeah, that's true. Not these corners. That's true. We'll get to them.
Yeah, we'll get to that. The O-line, what did you think of the O-line overall?
I thought it sucked for the most part. Exactly what I thought said was going to happen. It's that Tampa Bay blitzes a lot, gets a lot of pressure on quarterbacks, but they don't get a home too much, particularly when you got a guy as mobile as Daniels. Jaden Daniels saved a lot of plays with his legs, a lot of plays. And like I thought that. See, Cornelius Lucas started the game and played most of the game, but Brandon Coleman came in a little. I think it was 14 snaps.
Yeah, he played a couple snaps. Yeah.
Brandon Coleman had his moments where he looked pretty good. He looked, probably better than Lucas, I would say, which isn't like a high bar. Between him and Wiley, they're terrible. Terrible.
Between Lucas and Wiley, you mean?
Sorry, yeah, Lucas and Wiley, terrible.
Yes,
especially.
I agree with you there. I think with what we saw of Brandon Coleman this week, I think they are trying to bring him along slowly because he is coming off of
you just can't throw. He didn't play in the preseason at all. You can't just throw a 3rd round pick out there and say
give him double the snaps this coming week. Work him in as fast as you can because he is your best tackle. I like the 14 snaps we saw were better than anything we saw from any of these other guys.
I mean, it's just 14 snaps, but yes.
But if you were to rank every snap from all of them, his 14 are the top 14 snaps.
And it shouldn't surprise. I mean, I have been critical of Coleman. I get criticized in our comment section every time I write something about him.
Right.
But all my point here for the geniuses out there is that generally speaking, you can't expect a 3rd round pick to come in and be some kind of top starter. Not to say it doesn't happen. I'm saying the statistical odds are fairly unlikely. That's what I'm saying. And for the idea of Washington just rely on it, he's the answer, is a bit optimistic. That's all I've meant to say about him.
Right. And I agree with you there. I do think having him out there though, like, there were times he was absolutely mauling people. I can't.
There were.
Once he is the full-time starter, I think we'll have something where we can finally run around that left side.
I mean, we got to see more than 14 plays. You know, I
have some confidence.
Defense.
Is my point.
Okay, it's fair.
The rest of them, Wiley still terrible. Sam Cosmi's being Sam Cosmi, which is fine. I did think the new center Tyler Biadasz is. Like I'm okay with what I saw there.
Yeah, he was okay.
I don't really know what type of running scheme we're doing here. Is this supposed to be power? It just looks so messy right now.
I think you have to have a power scheme to a certain extent when you have Brian Robinson as your starter.
I guess so.
He's not going to be, hitting the
one
C gap.
Go.
Yeah, no. Yeah, but he's average. I mean, surprise, surprise. He averaged, what did I say?
Hold on, I'll scroll
3.3 yards per attempt.
Yeah.
That's kind of par for the course for the guy. He's been better at times and he's been worse at times. That's kind of average. That's along the lines of what we can expect from him. He's not the answer. He's not going to be the answer. Clearly, they don't think Austin Ekeler is, despite the fact they paid him $3 whatever million it was.
I mean, I think they really want him to be a receiving target, which he did a good job in that respect.
Yeah, he did. But they need somebody who can average 4.5 yards a carry. If you want to help your rookie quarterback, and not that this is like blazing a new trail here, but establish a solid running game. That is the best thing you could do for a young quarterback, and they just don't have it. They're not going to have it.
No, unless they make some kind of trade midseason for a running back.
And I just don't think they're going to do that.
No, I don't either. Yeah, but it would be nice to, because here's the thing: Robinson as part of a rotation, fine. Like he's capable, but they need something else.
He's not a feature back.
No, he's definitely not a feature back. If he were like a split time running back, I would live with it. But they don't have that other guy. Eckler's not that guy either, because Ekeler doesn't run the ball like that.
No.
Eckler's a pass catcher. Yeah, I guess. Do you have any other thoughts on the offense right now?
I don't know.
We talked a little bit about the receiving core, not much.
Yeah, no. I mean, I don't think there's anything left to say. It's it was a very disappointing performance all around, even understanding that who they were playing.
Right. My only thing is Jayden Daniels looked. You say, okay, I'm pretty happy with that for a first performance.
It was
probably a little high.
okay. I gave
Yeah.
him a C+ in my takeaways
Yeah, I
column,
would
I
be
think.
maybe a little higher. That's just me.
Yeah.
He didn't throw any interceptions. He had the fumble pass, but that was a bad play design issue as much as it was on him too. Um,
Well, no, it was a terrible pass.
it was a terrible pass.
Yeah.
But I also wouldn't have a guy who's a downfield thrower making a little dump off pass like that to start. Like that's not who he
Have
is.
some confidence in him.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah. The last thing I'll say about Daniels, as of right now, he reminds me a lot of what I remember seeing of Donovan McNabb in his rookie year. I just see a lot of that for some reason. McNabb was running around for his life a lot that first season like this.
Hopefully, Jayden Daniels will throw a ball directly in the dirt as many times as Brian Donovan McNabb did.
Yeah, I think he might be a better passer. I hope so.
I'm telling you, I mean, on film, he can chuck it,
yeah.
man.
Yeah.
We'll see. Again, it's only one game. I don't mean to be quite as if it might came across as negative. I'm just trying to give honest and fair, take on it. It could have been a lot worse. Did I think it was great? No. Did I think it was a total bust? No. He didn't make any huge he made the one huge mistake, that backward pass, that flat pass that went haywire. No interceptions.
Yeah.
No drive killing mistakes. Wasn't good, but also wasn't terrible. That's why I gave him a C+.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the defense. Oof, is how I'm going to start this conversation. It's still a mess, and the front four didn't get home very well. How do you let Baker Mayfield escape the pocket that much? That's my question. He's somewhat athletic, but like they had him wrapped up 2 or 3 times and couldn't bring him down.
Is there a team in the NFL that has been more inefficient in acquiring and developing its defensive line than the Washington football team?
Yeah, but even at this point, it's clear that Allen and Payne have regressed. They were good.
That's
what
I'm saying.
Yeah,
it's if you look at the group as a whole, they spent a butt ton of draft picks, and that's an official term. You look at it in Webster's dictionary, butt ton is a term. And
when you're drafting 300-pound defensive linemen, it is
the butt. Yeah, that's true. The butt may weigh a ton, but they spent all these draft picks on him. Yes, Allen and Payne, I think at least right now aren't what they have been at their peak. It's only one game. Yes. But it's just they're just not that great. The linebackers are better. But I mean,
they made mistakes too. But
the Buccaneers were the worst running team in the NFL last year.
Mm-hmm.
Statistically, the worst running team in the NFL. They improved a little bit. Last year, they averaged 3.4 yards per carry. And this year, they collectively averaged 3.7 yards per carry. But that includes Kyle Trask, having -1 yard in there. So if you take that out, it gets a little better. But like Bucky Irvin, 6.9 yards per carry. Baker Mayfield, 7 yards per carry.
Yeah.
There were times they didn't run the ball well, but they kind of got their groove there toward the end of the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I mean, and that's if you're winning, that's how a game goes generally.
Right. So, yeah. Of course.
Yeah. I do think the linebackers, talent-wise, it's clearly a better crew. I think it's so obvious that they just don't know how to play together right now, this group. And I think that's going to take time. You should have played them more in the preseason to, help with getting some cohesion, but we can't, undo the past, I guess. But
if you take Kyle Trask's 2 for -2 yards away, they're over 4 yards a carry.
Okay. Which not
is by their standards, that's good. They averaged 3.4 yards per carry last year.
More than half a yard more is a lot.
Yeah. Again, it's not enough of a sample size to say much, but that's not even the real problem, is it, Alex?
No.
Do you care to talk about the real problem?
Well, the real problem is we don't have anyone in the secondary worth anything.
They need to line up. Yeah, the dude down the street, he might be just as good.
Yeah. That was. I think, the most noticeable thing right away.
Is it safe to just call Emmanuel Forbes a bust? Is he a bust at this point?
Yeah. Yeah.
Look here. So my thoughts. I pointed out in the written game preview, and I may be on this show, but I know I wrote it. Benjamin St-Juste lined up man-to-man on Mike Evans is not going to go well. And it didn't go well. I kind of said it earlier in the show. I mean, they kind of put Evans on ice there a little after. Well, he was just killing him in the first half and it's kind of disappeared. But there were even times when St-Juste wasn't playing terrible on it, but you just can't put an average corner on Mike Evans and expect Mike Evans to not get touchdowns and make critical plays. It's a mistake. It was a mistake. There were times he was on press man on him. Right. That is a mistake. You don't have corners to match up against that level of talent. And I blame the defensive coaches for not recognizing that.
I understand that. And, when that one touchdown happened where St-Juste had I would say, honestly, really good coverage, he just got out-muscled for the ball.
Yeah.
Everyone was ripping. Honestly, I don't think there's anything he could have done there.
Mike Evans is just one of the top receivers in the NFL, and what should have happened is it be a zone, and you could slide a safety over to him.
Right.
That would have prevented that, perhaps.
That's what
that was a press man coverage
on
a long, like a go route.
Right. A safety's job used to be to do that.
Yeah.
All the time. But we don't play that.
Well, if you play like a Tampa 2 defense, that is what would happen.
Yeah. But
Mike Sandersill didn't look particularly good.
No. He I was looking at on Pro Football Reference. He was probably targeted the second most after St-Juste. And he allowed 83% completions. 5 of 6 balls thrown his way were complete. But you know who had the worst day?
Who's that?
Our little first round pick, Emmanuel Forbes, who invented a new penalty where you get a face mask pass interference at the same time.
It does take talent to do that.
Right. A double penalty, which is just impressive.
I can't honestly say I've seen that before.
I've never seen that before.
I didn't even know you could. That was the thing. It doesn't have to be either a face mask or pass interference, but not both. Isn't there like a double jeopardy thing? I mean,
well, yeah, you can't murder and poison somebody, right?
Well, you can. No, you can murder and poison somebody. You can do that. I could shoot somebody, which would be murder, and I could poison somebody, which would be probably I don't know, attempted murder, something.
But they're just gonna call it murder.
Well, you could charge that. That's not a good example. You could charge somebody 2 things depending on what killed somebody. I'm telling you.
Yeah, but
I love it that you're going to argue with me about criminal law.
Well, it's a poison bullet that killed him. I don't know.
That's a different thing.
Yeah.
But it's just kind of odd. But anyway, yeah. I mean, that's what I said. Is it safe to say Forbes is a bust? Yes.
Yes.
He sucks.
He's done. I think
he's not done. He's just sucks. They don't have anybody who are they going to put out there in place of him?
Well, that's fair. But when I say he's done, I think he's mentally broken at this point.
Possibly, yeah.
We saw that last year that when he got beat up by the Eagles and was freaking out on the sideline. I don't think he's ever coming back from that.
Maybe it's time for the Noah Igbinoghene or Michael Davis era.
Noah Igbinoghene played better. Is that his name?
Do we know how to pronounce that? Yeah, I don't either.
Yeah, no, I don't think anyone knows. We'd have to get him on the show and ask him. But that might be the answer this year. Is just you're gonna have to live with that as Noah or who's the other one?
Michael Davis.
Yeah, Michael Davis.
He's a lot easier to pronounce.
Yes. But at least Michael Davis also played in the league for a while, right? He's been around.
He's a pro. He's a pro receiver.
Or corner, yes.
Sorry, receiver. Yeah, corner. Yeah, he's he may be a pro receiver too. I don't know, but he's been around. Yeah. Is he great? No. I mean, but is he going to cause as much damage as Emmanuel Forbes causes?
Probably not.
And the problem is, what can you do about it? And I mean, the safety group, I think, performed better. I don't think I've given enough credit to Quan Martin. Maybe I've been down on him too, but he's been better. Credit where credit's due. Jeremy Chin, okay. So I think the safeties are a tiny bit better, but you can't make up for every defect when the corners are this sucky.
No, it's a problem. It really is.
But that having been said, remember that Tampa Bay has one of the best receiver duos in football. So we'll see if they can recover against lesser teams.
They have a very good one too. You're right about that. And like I said with the rest of the defense, it is a new team. They're all trying to figure out what they want to do here. What kind of defense they're playing. I
would advise not suck.
Yes, not suck is a good start. I just don't understand, one, of course, why coaches didn't play more in the preseason just to get some of these things settled. But are you playing stuff that's too complicated? We keep hearing Benjamin St-Juste complain about communication, and he did with Rivera. He's doing it now. Maybe it's you, Benjamin. Like, learn to communicate a little better yourself.
Possibly.
We saw early in the game, Mike Sandersill waving at him to come down and cover a guy.
I know. I noticed that too. I saw that play. Does the rookie slot corner have to be direct other players around him now? I mean,
right. Apparently.
Maybe we all overrated St-Juste. Maybe it's the case that he had better players around him and he, better corners around him that took pressure off him. But here he's the pro.
Link, he was fine. Yeah.
Yeah, but now he's supposed to be the senior guy around here and the pro, and it's just not, for one day at least it didn't work. But again, all hope is not lost because this was kind of the top of the heap here. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, there's some better, but not a lot,
Well, luckily next week the team that we're playing, the Giants, only has one really good receiver, Malik Nabers.
Yes.
Yeah. So we should probably talk about that.
Yes.
So Washington plays the Giants, like I said. Giants lost an ugly game to the Vikings last week. Daniel Jones is a wreck, which is good for us, but
not good for Daniel.
Not
good for Daniel.
Not good for Daniel. Good for us as Washington fans.
For Washington, yes, it's good.
But I still think this team could beat us or beat Washington. Because
you can never ever count the Giants out when it's a Washington Giants game.
No, they care more about beating Washington than anybody else. It seems like.
Yes, the Giants look bad.
Yeah.
You know who else looked bad?
Washington. Yes.
Correct.
Yeah.
So the Giants are looking at this game as the same way as Washington is, which is this is our get well game. And here's my take on it. It's one thing for Washington to come out and look bad against a playoff team that has a goal of going deep in the playoffs this year. They've got elite talent. They've got a quarterback that's working. It's another thing entirely to look that same level of bad against a team like the Giants. And so I think this week 2 game will actually tell us a lot about where the team is. Because if they come out and they handle the Giants, but they got skunked by the Tampa Bay, but they do at least well against the Giants and win, I think you can be fair to say that, no, they're not an elite team. They're not competitive, but they're making progress and they're not one of the worst. Whereas they go in and look bad against the Giants,
then it's a different story.
It's a different story. So I think this is, it's only week 2, but I think this is actually a very important game to establish exactly where Washington falls in the pecking order this year and where they are as a team.
I think you're right. And when you talk about this team and you start looking at the matchups, it does get interesting. The Giants, a lot like Washington, terrible secondary. Their secondary is probably just as much of a mess as ours.
Maybe worse.
The only thing is they have a better front 4, front 7, whichever you want to say, because they have a really good defensive tackle and they have some really good pass rushers.
Kayvon Thibodeau better than anybody that Washington has, and I would say Brian Burns probably is too.
Yes, I'd say
Dexter Lawrence is pretty good.
Dexter Lawrence is better. Is probably when Washington's on offense, Dexter Lawrence is probably the best player on the field.
Could be, yeah.
So like that's gonna make it tough. And the only thing that helps them is that I think Jayden Daniels can run away from Dexter Lawrence. He's fast enough to get away from him.
Here are my three. I have 3 keys to the game, 3 key matchups. Would you like to hear them? Yes, of course you would. One is open of passing offense.
I agree.
Test that Giants secondary, which sucks.
Right.
Test the passing. Find another runner other than Jayden Daniels. Help out Jayden Daniels. Do not let him be Mr. 16 carries. You have to take pressure off of him. And if it means like giving Jeremy McNichols carries, do it. But somebody needs to have some consistency. And the other thing is control the Giants' X and Z receivers.
Yeah.
Because again, Washington's secondary sucks too, as we just talked about. And they've got Darius Slayton out there, and Wan'Dale Robinson isn't terrible either. So Darius Slayton can do just as much damage as like Chris Godwin, hypothetically, at least if Daniel Jones has a good game. And then from a matchup standpoint, the left tackle, be it Cornelius Lucas or Brandon Coleman versus Kayvon Thibodeau, you've got to control Kayvon Thibodeau. Mike Sanderson against Wan'Dale Robinson. He's kind of maybe the forgotten man a little bit because Darius Slayton is kind of all over the place, but Mike, that's an important one. And then I listed Terry McLaurin against Deonte Banks because Washington needs to get their receivers involved this week, and it begins and ends with Terry McLaurin. You've got to have him take advantage. He's the Pro Bowler. He's the offensive leader. You need to get him involved. He needs to have a big game. That's my thoughts.
Against this defense, you should be throwing the ball his way 10, 15 times. You really should.
Yep, a lot at least, yes.
Yeah, because you're not going to be able to run against the Giants, and that would be one of my keys. Is as much as I would rather not put the ball in Jayden Daniels' hands early in his career, like if you run the ball 30 times this game, you're still not going to have 100 yards. And not counting scrambling, of course. Like
we're not saying don't run him at all, but he just can't be the team's leading rusher.
But I'm saying running backs. Like if you had 30 runs from Robinson, Eckler, whoever else, I still don't see 100 yards on the ground because I think the Giants' strength is going to be stopping the run this whole season.
Yeah,
with that front of theirs.
Injury report, by the way.
Oh yeah. Why don't we do that real quick?
Zach Ertz, Johnny Newton. Both DNP on Wednesday, but it was just rest. Tyler Owens, a safety, ankle. Brandon Coleman, shoulder, full practice. Owens is limited. And then Emmanuel Forms, thumb, full. Brian Robinson, knee, but full practice. Trent Scott, knee, full practice. And the Giants only had 5 players on the injury report. DB, Nick McLeod, knee. These are all DNPs. Nick McLeod, Darius Masu, Gunnar Olszewski, and Darius Slayton, who's in concussion protocol, by the way, apparently. So that's a big one. And then Micah McFadden, linebacker, full practice. So the big one on that is Darius Slayton's in concussion protocol, which means he may not play.
Mm-hmm. That would be good news for us in the DC area.
Yes. Of course it would. Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Do you want to give a quick score for this one?
Yeah, I'm looking up I haven't looked up the betting line here. Let me look.
I want to look down 1.5 in Washington's favor.
Washington 1.5. Yeah.
Toss up.
This is a tough one, but I think if Darius Slayton is not out there, that's a really, really big deal to me. I'm really struggling with this one.
Let me give mine, and that'll give you some time to think about yours.
Okay.
So. I do think Washington's going to pull this one out. I think that there is something really wrong with the Daniel Jones experience up there in New York. So I'm going to say this is not a get-right game. Like, Washington's not going to blow them out or anything. But I see Washington winning this something like 17-14, where, they have a good handle on the game probably in the fourth quarter and just kind of are able to grind out the clock. But it's going to be a tight one?
I'm trying to balance my natural pessimism versus reality, and I think the reality is that the Giants were slightly worse than Washington last week.
I would
They
say
both
so.
look bad, but I think the Giants look slightly worse. The Giants scored fewer points. Giants scored 6 points. Washington scored,
20.
14, and then they got a garbage time touchdown.
Sure.
So,
okay.
And if Darius Slayton is out, especially, I think Washington will squeak by in a low-scoring game, like 13-10 or something.
So similar.
Similar,
yeah.
Yeah.
Similar low-scoring.
It's gonna be the dog game of the week.
Yeah.
Two bad teams, playing. It's not going to be exciting, but I think Washington will squeak one out, especially since it's at home.
Yeah, I think the home. I'm giving him the home field advantage for whatever that's worth.
Not a lot, but
something.
Not
a lot. Yeah. All right, let's talk about some more fun stuff that's been going on in the league. Week 1 has some interesting stories. One, I'm just gonna say this, and we don't have to really talk about it. I'm already sick of this whole Tom Brady thing. The 400 damn commercials. The 400 commercials that they did for Tom Brady, and the fact that Tom Brady's going to be an announcer. I don't care that he's going to be an announcer. How are we putting up ads for an announcer now? That's ridiculous.
Well, he's such a big. He's a celebrity.
I understand he's a celebrity. By the way, apparently he didn't do that great from what I heard. I was watching our game. I wasn't watching that game.
Well, Chris and I talked about this on It's Just Business because he's actually gotten into an interesting problem with the NFL because he is the owner of the Raiders wants to sell him a minority share in the Raiders. And so what has happened is that the NFL has realized that you can't have an owner of the Raiders in a locker room of another team.
Right.
And so there's that. But what Chris and I both said, I think you would probably agree, Alex, is that doesn't strike me as like an automatically great announcer. He's not personable. No. Obviously, he knows everything about football, but a lot of guys know everything about football. But he's kind of a block of wood.
Right. Well, he's spent 40 years as a quarterback saying canned answers that don't mean anything.
Yeah. He's just not like, like Travis Kelce is very personable.
Right.
I'm just making, a name up.
Greg Olsen was very personable when he was in a booth. And
he's professional. Yeah. And Tom Brady is just not that. So, I'm not necessarily sick of him. I'm just,
I'm just sick of the hype is what I am. But the more interesting things that happened that we really want to talk about. Of course, the Tyreek Hill incident that happened outside the Dolphins Stadium, which is just insane. Or I guess it's not, but it is. And then Deshaun Watson is in trouble again somehow. And here's my shot.
I know. Another news. The earth is round.
Let's hit the Deshaun Watson thing real quick because you did scramble and find the information, the legal documents.
I pulled the petition. So what has happened real quick? I did this like 2 minutes
before the show.
Yeah, minutes. So I haven't really read it. But what has happened is Deshaun Watson has been sued again. There's a bunch of art columns out there about it, but because I pulled the petition from the court.
Right, to get the actual information.
Yeah, and it's in Harris County, which is where I am. So,
I asked the one question I hadn't seen an answer to. When did this happen? Because to me, as much as I think he's a scumbag, and I don't think he should have been allowed in the NFL until all this was like I think he should have been done. If this was a new story, like a new incident, he's done. But
it's not, and let me tell you why this is filed when it is, because so the incident, first of all, the incident question, the short version of the story here, according to the petition, is that Watson's agent set up a date between the unnamed woman, the Jane Doe, and Watson. And by the way, you need your agent to like be a bimbo wrangler for you. That's not fair. You need your agent to set up dates with women for you. I didn't mean to call her a bimbo. That's not. Right. I shouldn't have done that. This is just me babbling, but that's kind of sad. Don't ask your agent to do that. But anyway, basically, he showed up at the Jane Doe's home, and she was still getting ready.
Right.
And so she disappeared and trying to talk to him. Well, because his name is Sean Watson, decided to get completely naked and is laying on the bed, and then tells her to give him a massage. And she's afraid. She says in the petition she complied out of fear, and eventually he sexually assaulted her. And there's a difference between sexual assault and rape. I'm not going to get gross, but that's two different things in criminal law. Right. But so that's the gist of it. But this happened on allegedly October 10th, 2020. So it's years ago, right in kind of line with the other ones.
It's in the timeline of all the other incidents.
Yeah, I don't remember the specific dates of the other ones. I didn't get a chance to go back and look, but it's roughly in the ballpark.
Right.
And the cause of action, by the way, and again, I really didn't read this, but it's sexual assault and battery, and then intentional infliction of emotional distress. Those are the allegations. This is civil, for the record. This is not a criminal case. This is civil lawsuit.
Right.
And there you go. Without reading
that's a thumbnail of what's going on.
Right.
To me, the big thing is if this were a new incident, I would be, more than upset.
Oh, and this happened in Houston, by the way. It should be said. A case filed in Harris County happened in Houston, which is, again, before he was traded, to the. And we may do more. If I can talk Chris Larry into this, we may do this on IGB.
Yes, it would make a good athletes behaving badly.
Chris doesn't like the athletes behaving. I have to talk him into doing the athletes behaving badly stuff, though.
Yeah, but it's so fun.
It is. I love him. He doesn't love him, so I'll have to beg him.
I mean, you could do a whole episode of it because the Tyreek Hill story also.
Oh, I know. Oh, yeah.
Let's get to that. Behaving badly. I would also argue the cops behaving badly. Everyone behaving badly in this whole circumstance. Just not professional on anyone's end. Don't speed like that. I mean, we all do. We all speed, but
I don't go 20 miles over the speed limit when near a football stadium on game day in McLaren.
I mean, was it a McLaren or Florida? I couldn't tell.
I think I read McLaren. I wouldn't know the difference, but I think I read McLaren.
It was one of them very, very fancy Batman type cars.
Yes, the Batman car. Yes,
it's a definite Batman car. If you get pulled over doing it, just don't be a dick to the cops. You're not going to make it better for yourself. This is my advice to the world. Don't be a dick. If the cops hey, roll down. If the cops being a dick, no, don't be a dick back. And the cops were being dicks. They came into it ready to be a dick. I get it.
Yeah. So Tyreek Hill brought all this on himself. When you get stopped by the police, as Alex said, don't be a jerk. Right. Roll down. When they tell you to roll, what started is he rolled down his window and then rolled it back up, and they're yelling at him to roll down his window again. The reason they're not being jerks about it, they copped an attitude pretty quickly, admittedly, but it's also a very tense situation. And by the way, the reason why they want the window down, and for those of you arguing it's not a lawful, yes, it is. And the reason you have a general obligation to comply with the police during a traffic stop. Okay, so stop with these stupid arguments. But the reason they're doing it is for safety. They don't know what you're doing in a car when you have blacked out windows. Are you pulling a gun on them? Are you pulling another weapon, a knife? Is there a guy hidden under the seat? I mean, you don't know. And if you're going to be a jerk and roll up your windows, they're going to get nervous pretty quickly. And that is what happened. Should they have maybe had a better attitude? Yes. But Tyreek Hill, you caused this just because you can get in front of the media and a press conference and try to snow the media and sell a bunch of left-leaning journalists, who probably don't like the police anyway, that they're at fault. That is not what happened. You brought this on yourself. None of that had to happen. Everybody gets stopped speeding. It's not even the point. How you handled the speeding ticket was terrible. If you had just said, whoops, I'm sorry, I'm an idiot. Roll down the window, let me comply, take my ticket. Thank you very much, officer. I won't do it again. None of this would have happened. And so you brought all of it on yourself. Now, I will say this, Alex. There's a racial component here that people brought up. And, I think fair to say that a significant number of African Americans in certain parts of the country, at least, believe that they are treated unfairly by the police. And I'm not here to disagree with anybody's beliefs or whatnot, because you believe what you believe. But in this case, this had nothing to do with race. This is a guy who had a horrible attitude in a car and did not comply. And when they told him to get out, he's not getting out of the car, and they have to drag him out of the car. What do you think's going to happen? So Tyreek Hill is 100% at fault. That's my thought.
I'm not saying he's going to be blameless. I think Tyreek Hill's always had an attitude problem.
He's a terrible human being.
He's a terrible human being off the field.
This is the guy who punched his pregnant girlfriend in the stomach.
Right.
Among many other things.
Right. Tyreek Hill is the best receiver in the league, and it's not the first time the best receiver in the league has been a terrible human being.
That's true.
The position attracts dirtbags. It just does.
A lot of attitude.
A lot of bad attitudes. A lot of things worse than bad attitudes, frankly.
Yes.
Michael Irvin probably belongs in jail for some of the stuff he did.
Definitely belongs in jail, but never got hit with him.
Right. That said, the cops, the second they're there, they had a bad attitude. There's a level of professionalism I do expect from law enforcement too in traffic stops. You're there doing the stupidest waste of time job. We have cameras that do this for you in civilized society. Your job doesn't need to.
Well, those aren't legal in every jurisdiction, Alex.
Right. But there's a reason we do it, because it's a waste of time to have humans do it. I know people hate speeding cameras. It's better than having this kind of thing happen. Camera takes your picture. You get
but there's a difference between getting stopped by a camera going 50 and a 40 or whatever on some normal city street and having a football stadium open to the general public. You have to have
if they're there for traffic control. I get that, but
and you can't drive a McLaren 20 miles over the speed limit heading into a football stadium on game day. I mean, the cops have to be there. And yes, I agree there's a level of professionalism that the cops, I think, probably didn't have. They got an attitude quickly, but I don't really blame them that much because he was difficult from jump. He never showed a good attitude about it at all. He was argumentative. He refused their orders repeatedly. Mm-hmm. He wouldn't roll down the window. He wouldn't get out of the car. He was mouthing off to him.
He was on the phone with Drew Rosenhaus the whole time.
Yeah, you do what you're going to do, man, and get, and they had people approaching him on the sidewalk. There's two other players, and they don't know who those guys are or what they're going to do. And so I don't blame them that much for what happened. Now they may, there's a lot of media pressure and societal pressure to do something about them, but in this case, I'm on their side.
I'll tell you what's going to happen. They'll get a suspension with pay at most. That's exactly what it's Florida. Florida is gonna back cops,
Should in this case, so that's my point.
Yeah.
You and I probably don't see it the same, Alex.
No, we don't.
Yeah. That's okay.
I think that those guys probably don't belong in the uniform with just how they acted. I don't think they're professional enough to be cops.
I think Tyreek Hill caused the whole thing to happen.
I think Tyreek Hill is also not a good person. I'm with you there. Like to me, you can go into a lot of situations in life and everyone's a bad person. So
Yeah, but it's more than just him being a bad person. It's his conduct caused this incident to happen.
I understand that. His conduct caused it to happen. Their conduct caused it to be worse.
I mean, he was going to get dragged out and put in cuffs no matter what, after what he was talking about. They might have spoken to him nicer, but he was going to end up in cuffs either way doing that.
My only question, and it is a legitimate question, I think, do you think they actually even knew who he was? I don't.
Yeah, because if you look, I did, for those of you wondering, yes, I did watch I
watched the whole thing, yeah.
And they said, hey, that's Tyreek Hill. So yeah, they did know who he was.
Who said? I didn't hear.
It was caught on the mic on the camera, the what's the camera footage?
The body cam. Yeah.
Body cam. Thank you. Yeah. One of them said that it was it was off the video, but they knew who he was.
Yeah.
Eventually did it after a moment at least they did.
Mm.
And look, I mean, there's a McLaren driving up to a football stadium on a Sunday. I think it's safe to assume they probably guessed he was a football player.
I never assume anyone's that bright, but
no, but I mean that's they probably
they probably did,
but my point is like yes, bad attitudes, but I don't really blame them for ordering him to roll down the window.
No,
I don't blame him or getting him out of the car. I don't blame him for putting him in cuffs, particularly with the other players. There was 2 other players standing there. I mean that was a situation that had it gone south could have really been bad. And the cops have to protect themselves. And I don't think this is racial. For those of you out there who think it's racial, I don't think anything to do with
I don't necessarily think it's racial. I mean, I do know there's a history of hostility between Latinos and blacks, and everyone knows that. But I don't necessarily think that was a catalyst or anything.
No.
I think the first and second cop especially both came in. It was roll down your window. Okay, you're going to jail. There was not a lot of.
But did you really listen? It was him having a huge, massive attitude.
But it took all of 10 seconds for them to get out. You're going to jail.
I think we made our points. We and I disagree on it. I mean, there's no sense in continuing. Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
That because we're out of time here.
We are also out of time. Yes, that is true. So we will talk to everyone next week post game show and next game preview, I guess.
Yep. Next Thursday.
Huzzah! All right, the season's underway. At least we have real things to talk about.
Yes.
Talk to you all next week. Later.